Hello, this video is going to show you how to cast on and begin to knit in the round. You can do it on any size needles with basically any number of needles. I'm going to cast on 20 on each of 3 needles here. So you can see this is thinner yarn, sock yarn, fingering weight with about size 2 needles or 3 millimeters. And over here, which is what I'm going to demonstrate on so you can see it better, I have worsted yarn and size 8 needles. And we only need 2 at a time. You do notice perhaps that these are different lengths, 3 short and 2 longer, and it actually doesn't make any difference. The length of the needle makes no difference at all. If I'm making socks, I would use probably something like 6-inch needles, not much longer than that. For other items like a hat or a sweater, obviously longer needles. I'm going to start with just 2, because we're only ever going to use 2 needles, even though it looks like we've got 4 attached to our knitting. I put the slip knot on one of the needles, and that is actually our first stitch. I'm going to show you the double cable cast on, which is the kind of cast on that I teach to adults and children, because it's very much like knitting and it's very sturdy, stretchy and firm and attractive looking cast on. I'm going to try and zoom in a little bit so you can see a little better. Okay, let's try that. So here's my first stitch. I'm going to go in, round, through and on, instead of in, round, through and off like with knitting. So here I go in, and for the first stitch it's a little different because I have to go in through the stitch. There's nowhere else for me to go. And now I'm going to go round that needle, pull it through the loop this time, and my finger here is helping. I just have one piece of yarn like that. I make it nice and big so I can put it on the needle. I'm casting on, so I want it on that needle. Now for a double cable cast on, I'm going to go in behind these 2 loops here, behind these, well, through the one loop, 2 pieces of yarn. So here I have 2 pieces of yarn. I'm going to go snug it up first, and I'm going to go round, through, make it big, and put it on like nose to nose, like that, just straight on like that. My left hand is really sorting these stitches out and keeping them even. If I pull it tight, it looks crisscrossed. It's a real nuisance. So keep it fairly loose until the needle is in behind these 2 pieces of yarn. You can see the 2 pieces here. And now I'm going to snug it up a little bit, round, pull it through and on. I'll do it like 4 more times together, and then I'll pause it when I finish the row. In, behind the 2 pieces, round, through with the left hand helping, 1 piece of yarn, make it big, put it on, nose to nose like that. In, round, through, make it big, put it on. 2 more. In, snug, round, through. So I'm just bringing out 1 piece. I'm not coming through the loop, I'm coming out behind. I'm coming out where I went in. Make it nice and big or loose, put it on. In, then I snug it up if I need to. Round, this finger is helping to come behind that stitch. Big, and put it on. Now I'm going to pause it, and I'm going to show you how to start casting on this needle now too. So we're moving from one needle to the next. Here I have 20 stitches on my needle. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20. Now how am I going to get the stitches onto the next needle? Well, there are 2 ways. There's the way I prefer and the way I don't prefer, but some people like it. So I'll show you the way I don't prefer first, and that is just to carry on casting on stitches on this same needle here. So just carry on doing the same thing over and over again until you have enough. And now let's pretend I've done 20, which I haven't done. I think I've done about 6. Let's just double check. 2, 4, 6, 8, 14, 16, 18, 20, 22, 24. I've only done 4. But now I'm going to just move those 4 stitches over onto this needle here. So 1, 2, 3, 4. And then if you want to, you could have done 40 altogether and move 20 over onto this second needle, or you can just move some over, and then you can just let this one hang while you take another needle and continue to cast on here. But now let me show you how I like to do it, which is a slightly different way. Here I have just 20 on the needle, and I'm going to put 20 on this needle now. So I'm going to put the first one on like this, same way, except instead of putting it on here, I'm leaving it on here. I've got 20 on my first needle over here, and I've got 1 on my second needle, and now I'm going to use another needle to put the other 19 on here. So I have to slide this stitch all the way down to the end, and I can put this behind if I want to, or in front, it doesn't matter. And if you're sitting on a chair with your knitting in front of you without this tabletop here, you can just let it hang and it stays out of the way pretty well. But now I'm going to just carry on as if this were my first stitch. I have to go through the loop, and I am going to cast this one on to my left working needle behind the loops, and on I go until I have 20 on my next needle, because I want 60 total, which is 20 on each of 3 needles. I'm just going to keep going. I'm going to pause it until I come to the end of this needle. Now I have 20 on the first needle and 20 on the second. Now I want 20 on the third. So I'm going to cast one onto the third needle, like this. Scoot this down a little bit so the stitches are more in the center of the needle here and not going to fall off either end. Turn this around, put the stitch at the front end of the needle, pick up another working needle, and off I go again, doing exactly the same thing. First stitch, I just go through the loop, which isn't ideal. It's not exactly the same, but it's going to work out just fine. And then I carry on casting on, and this is where you do need just a little bit of space around you so that these hanging needles here, you know, can actually hang. And that's another good thing about the wooden needles, they're less likely to slip out, but your tension is actually what holds them. So off I go until I have 20.